Welcome, I'm Trisha Lemon and I've been running several videos now about the dreams I've experienced during spiritual awakening. Just to recap, if you've not managed to follow any of the other dreams, the purpose of the videos is to bring forward the dreams that I have experienced during my spiritual awakening. I've had obviously lots and lots of dreams, but they're very clear that these are symbolic dreams with symbolisms and messages within them. How I hope they might help you is if you are having a spiritual awakening, you may be able to map your own dreams along the same or similar timeline as myself and identify those symbols or those messages. It's difficult actually in these videos to get really into some of the spiritual messages or the deeper psychological meaning, and I just wanted to be clear on that that's not the purpose of these videos. The purpose is to bring forward those symbols should you be having an awakening yourself, or you're interested in feminine psychology, or you're interested in understanding more about feminine or moon consciousness. So today's video I'm going to jump into a couple of areas. Particularly, I will be focusing on some of the messages I've received, which are different from symbols, i.e. pictures. These are very clear messages I have received during my dreams. So there's a couple I'm going to cover today, and then I will cover a particular dream because I think it brings them together. So the dreams I'll be looking at, one message was around, the message I received said potentiality. Another dream I received was from the feminine consciousness, and in the dream it said, I have not been seen like this for a long time. And then another message I received was, what is the state of God? Which is very interesting. And then I have had other messengers or messenger messages, and these have been more particular to my own personal circumstances and to do with mothers and fathers and mothers of other people, but particular messages around their particular deaths, or even one expressing their sorrow and asking for forgiveness the way they treated a particular person. I know, sounds a bit woo-woo, but that's what happened, and I take that as a message from, you know, the wider consciousness of our own being. So today, let me jump straight into the first one about the spoken message, and this one is about the message's potentiality, and my own interpretation of this is that potentiality is really one of the truths of life, or the truths of energy, is that we all have potentiality to reach enlightenment, or the potentiality to reach as far as we can in our own lives, our own development, our own psychic growth, our own awareness, our own understanding of ourselves. So everything is about potentiality. There is potential in everything you see and everything you do. And if you think of that as another word, you could say potentiality is there's always a pregnancy, there's always something new that can come, or a new area of growth, or a new area of development. And just trying to understand that myself in terms of what that means for feminine consciousness and what that means for moon consciousness is interesting, because another message I received was in a dream where there was lots of gigantic waves in the sea, and the message says, I have not been seen like this for a long time. And for me, that understanding was that feminine consciousness is not something, or is something very few people or humanity has experienced for thousands and thousands of years. And there's reasons for that, but obviously it's to do with where we were in our own evolution and the evolution of the masculine ego and civilization. But let me try and unpick that a little bit, because where we are now in humanity is the re-emergence of feminine psychology and feminine consciousness. Sometimes I just sit and ponder, and I just allow things to come forward, and I'm trying to understand where that might come from and how that might actually happen. And I think what I'm seeing at the moment is I am seeing a lot of women, particularly, pushing the boundaries of where they're seen and their presence in all areas of life, whether that's business, whether that's sport, whether that's leadership. Women are pushing those boundaries of where they have not been seen before in the past, and now they have that presence, and in that presence other females are then given permission to carry on within that masculine world and bring themselves forward. That's important as part of our own feminine psychology and our own feminine evolution. But where does that leave perhaps someone like myself who's had a spiritual awakening, or other feminines who are going through a similar process? And I guess when I've sat and thought about that, it's the same thing. There are more masculine, or there are more men that are out there with the voice of spirit or their own awakening, or in the world of spirituality. It's far more powerful than any or many females that are bringing those voices forward. There's probably lots of reasons for that, but I do think that will shift as more women feel empowered and liberated in their own masculine consciousness. So there's almost like another step there that needs to happen. And as they go through that process, they will then have that capacity to then drop more into their own feminine consciousness and perhaps experience a spiritual awakening. But as more women do become liberated and are seen on the world stage, more of that feminine consciousness will come into the world. It will be step by step, it will be slow, it will be not something you can necessarily pin it down, because feminine consciousness has not been seen before, or not been seen for a long time, and most of us wouldn't recognise it. So I think we're very much in the early stages of that, and it will take a lot of time to unfold, and I think that just needs to happen. And I look at posts on the internet and on YouTube and on LinkedIn and social media, and I do see the little seeds of that, and I think that's a word that's important, because the seeds of that is what the potentiality is. So that's why I link that back to that dream, because the seed of fertility is potentiality, and the seeds of shifting into feminine consciousness are beginning to take place, and we just need to allow that to happen. So potentiality is just a profound, infinite capability within humanness, or within life itself, or within the cosmos. But definitely the potentiality for more feminine awakening at its deeper moon consciousness level, that is beginning to take place, and I do see the seeds of that. Okay, let's move on to the next dream. So the next dream, the question was, what is the state of God? Wow, well, that's a massive question for somebody to drop within my dreams. And I have to admit, since that dream, I'm really pondering that question. I do have lots of little threads beginning to come together around what I feel that question means, as in, what is the state of God? What is the state of masculine consciousness? And our own psychology that is so connected with God and not a goddess. And there's lots in that I am beginning to explore, and hopefully somewhere down the line I will come forward with some ideas around what that means. But that has been quite a profound question that my feminine consciousness has asked me that question, and it wants me to look at that question. because obviously somewhere within me or within the separation between the God and the goddess, there needs to be some healing or realignment, but I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet, but I am going to come back to that. What I am trying to share is that is another question or another message I was given within one of my dreams. And it is a powerful question and a powerful statement. So that was, and then I said I have mentioned other ones that were closely related to family members, and they're not really relevant for me to experience them or share them with you in this video, but I have had quite a few, maybe you might call them beyond the grave messages. So the next dream, this is a dream rather than a message, but I think it links back to the potentiality, is there is a golden goblet, and in the golden goblet are two ripe pieces of fruit. You could call them oranges or like tangerines. And this again relates back to feminine consciousness and moon consciousness, and this whole idea about ripeness and fertility and seeds being in the dark, and then the seeds, you know, germinating, and the first couple of seeds that you know, the first couple of leaves, sorry, that come out of that seed, and then the whole growth of that particular seed into perhaps two oranges. So that's the fructification. The fructification is the complete life cycle of a seed, and in that, in a deeper part of that, that seed has to be in the dark somewhere before it can germinate, and that's the correlation between darkness and the moon and the different cycles of the moon. The fructification, in terms of what that meant to me during my spiritual awakening, is about a personality transformation. I've completed my whole potentiality in terms of the different life cycles of feminine consciousness. So that took years, and that transformation did take years. And when you think of words like dark night of the soul or transformational energy, and you go into this dark space for several years, well, in that dark space, in that feminine consciousness, that's where that transformational piece is taking place. And it is very difficult because you're in the darkness, you don't know what's happening, it's hard to see those first seeds of you beginning to grow this new personality, or the death of an old personality, and you become disconnected from the ego, and the ego is no longer in control. And the other process about that is about time, because time and space during a spiritual awakening completely disappears. It just does not exist anymore. It's just a concept that just has totally gone. And this is around the moon consciousness in the cycles of the moon, rather than you know, the linear time of a clock. So moon time is a very different time, and cosmic time is a very different time, and all that ego consciousness begins to disappear. And that's why I felt that it was worth bringing those two together, because if you think of the goblet, and it's a gold goblet, so that's consciousness, and it's fully illuminated. It is a womb, and within that is the two pieces of fruit, which is the fructification of life, that you've completed that life cycle and fructified yourself into that full piece of fruit, or that full new personality, or that full new level of feminine consciousness. Excuse me. So the takeaway from that really is that as part of the awakening, and as your awakening deepens and it becomes more embodied, you will receive messages of what people might call angels or messengers, and they will be very direct and specific. They won't tell you what they mean, but you'll get a message, and from that you'll find that you'll just start ruminating that question, and what does it mean, and what's its influence on us and humanity. So that's my dreams for today, and the messages I've received. And thanks for listening, and catch you again soon. Bye.